Okay, we have the time at 7 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. We all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Heaston, you'd like to call the roll?
Mr. Raymer.
Here.
Mrs. Reed.
Here.
Mr. Stubbs.
Here.
We are all present.
Okay, the purpose of this evening's meeting is the monthly, normal, regular trustee meeting. Hello and welcome. At this time, we'll go ahead and open it up for any visitor comments. Please be reminded to state your name and address, and we're going to limit each comment to 5 minutes, please. You don't see anything, Haley? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move past the visitor comments. Just raise your hand or make a comment on the chat function if I'm missing someone that wants to speak. At this time, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to the fiscal officer for his report.
Give me just one quick second here.
Okay.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I don't have as many things tonight since we have met recently more than once. I'll try to go through these as quickly as possible. There were two sets of minutes that I have tonight that I'm going to ask you to approve. There's the minutes of December 14th, which was a regular meeting, our monthly regular meeting, and also December 16th, a special meeting, and that was the JED meeting that we had with the other jurisdictions. The more recent meetings that we've had, December 30th, January 4th, and January 7th, I have not yet finished those minutes. So
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
I will second.
any discussion before we vote? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. At the December 30th meeting, I had you approve the December financial reports as of that date, actually as of December 29th. Some last minute transactions did occur after that point prior to the year end. So I have given you new reports for the exactly through the end of the year. These are final numbers. You have the fund status at the end of December. You have the cash summary by fund for the whole year. You have the December listings and the new items on the receipt listing. And the new items there are the interest on the two bank accounts, First National Bank and Star Ohio, and the payment listing for the month of December. And there were several last minute vouchers, electronic vouchers that got posted when I was reconciling the bank statement. So if there are no questions, I would like to have a motion to approve all of these amended financial statements and reauthorize all those payments that we did before, as well as vouchers through 7/68.
So moved.
For a second?
I will second. Sorry. I'll second.
Any discussion of the financial statements before you vote? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. During the month of December, I responded to 2 additional public records requests for the resumes of the applicants for the alternate position on the Board of Zoning Appeals. That brought the total to 4 public records requests for that information. I also responded to an additional public record request that had a number of items that was being asked for. The 2015 through 2020 year-end fund status reports, the draft 2021 budgets for all of our funds, the January 4th organizational meeting agenda and the draft 2021 appropriation resolution, and I responded to all of those. I also have filed the final grant report with the Ohio Office of Budget and Management, and I've indicated that all of our CARES Act funds received by the township were dispersed prior to the end of 2020. Now, as we discussed at the December regular meeting, we did receive an election ballot for the OTARMA Board of Directors. If you decide you want to vote for anyone, we have to have that postmarked by January 15th. And the 4 candidates, as a reminder, for the 2 seats on the OTARMA board are Carolyn DeStefani from Sugar Creek Township in Greene County, Marcia Funk from Brown Helm Township in Lorain County, Ryan Morris, Franklin Township in Warren County, and Nick Schwab, Riley Township in Butler County. And if you want to submit a ballot, we'll just do that by motion.
To say, as I stated at that December meeting, I believe that I don't have a strong opinion. I know there's 2 of them that are incumbents, and if they're doing a good job before the vote, that would be my only opinion, is we supported them, but I don't have a strong opinion. If you guys don't even want to vote, I'm fine with it.
I am muted. I don't know. What's going on?
I think it's potentially your speakers.
Apologies. I wasn't actually logged on until just now. Okay, sorry about that. Moving on.
I'm comfortable either way. I don't have a strong feeling on them. I don't know any of the 4 of them, so.
If we don't have to vote, I mean, if we don't have strong opinions, I say we just pass it.
Agreed.
Okay.
Okay, very good. At the December 30th meeting, you asked Mr. Holbrook to provide a yearly estimate to maintain the 5 township-owned cemeteries, and we have received that information. Of course, per the Ohio Revised Code, cemetery maintenance is a trustee responsibility. Mr. Holbrook's indicated that the cemeteries are mowed by the road department every week and trimmed every other week between April and October. Mowing takes 6.5 hours and trimming takes another 6.5 hours. And a total of 225 hours are spent maintaining the township cemeteries each year. Using an hourly rate, including fringe benefits, of $37.83, this equates to $8,524 per year. And you have previously discussed potentially transferring some of the third 2020 dividend that we received in December from the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation. That dividend amount was $27,565, and when it was received, that dividend was deposited into the general fund. But as premiums were paid to the Workers' Comp Bureau last year and in 2019, the allocation was 21.31% to the road, 69.01% to the police department, 3.25% to the trash, and 6.43% to the general fund. And if you decide to approve a transfer of funds tonight, we will do so by resolution.
I'll give you my initial thoughts on it. Mr. Holbrook, I appreciate you putting this together. I mean, obviously put the details in here and appreciate that. I guess what I would say is, you know, obviously we want to make sure you guys are reimbursed going forward from the general fund. The only thing I would say, and it's not to challenge any of the numbers that you put here, just based on reasonableness. I think if we were in a situation where the general fund had to pay roughly $8,000 or $9,000 a year, I think we would probably look at potentially, you know, finding something that's a little bit cheaper than $40 an hour rate to do it. And so that's not what I'm proposing we do. I guess what I'm saying is I would propose for us to reimburse something that is a little more reasonable, what I think the general fund will be willing to support for a service like that. And so my suggestion is, You know, 225 hours is what you had said. Closer to $20 an hour would be $5,000 per year. I think with us paying for, the general fund paying for the mower, I think paying $5,000 a year would seem reasonable. It's obviously more than what you guys had received, and this is reasonable in my opinion. It's obviously up for discussion both from you and the other trustees, but what I would propose potentially doing is giving you guys back 3 years, which would be $15,000, and then paying you the $5,000 for this year, which would be $20,000 of that 27 that we just got reimbursed, and then make it a $5,000 annual on a going basis unless there was some substantial change to the services or whatever. So I guess it's open to everyone's discussion, but definitely if you think that's fair or not, that's for you to inform me what you think there.
That's fine by me. The only, the only way you would know for certain what it would cost is to go out for bid and see what it would cost to contract somebody to mow those. I personally, I have no idea what it would cost. I do know that, we can't just hire Joe Schmo to mow the cemeteries for many reasons. One being, the damage that they could cause to the cemetery. They'd have to have insurance. They'd have to have workman's comp. They'd have to, be licensed. So it's not like we could just hire some, 16-year-old kid to go mow the cemeteries in his dad's pickup truck. But, with that being said, I have no idea. Something's better than nothing. And so I'm not going to complain about that. But I mean, if you're wanting to know what real numbers are, then the only way you could do it is to have somebody come in and quote it. So if you're comfortable with that, I'm like I said, something's better than nothing.
So my question, I guess, is a little for Mark Houston as well. Can our general fund withstand spending $5,000 a year? I mean, our general fund is hurting, right? I mean, we all know our general fund is not in the best shape. Can it withstand that?
The general fund balance went up by $56,000 throughout 2020, but $27,000 of that is this money that we're discussing from the Workers' Comp Bureau. So approximately $30,000 was an increase. We do, of course, have the years coming in the future where we'll continue to be paying the water district debt, but when we no longer will be getting any revenue in from the cemetery loan. So yes and no. I mean, we can afford it
This year, but in the coming years.
Maybe 4 or 5 years from now, we may have more issues.
Okay, that's my, I totally agree. I think that the road department puts in a lot of work and time and effort, and they should be reimbursed for it. I just hate to make our general fund go deplete money to do that. So I'm not sure what exactly the solution is for that.
Well, I guess a couple of things. Go ahead. Do you have something?
No, go ahead.
The only thing I'd say is that the water district, you said it ends in whatever it was, 5 or 8 years. There's about a 3-year discrepancy between the cemetery receiving the funds and what we got to pay the water district. In 3 years of that at $20,000, $60,000. So it'll be a hit for sure if our incoming revenues do not change, but it definitely wouldn't put us to a point where we couldn't afford it. Now, that's with everything else being held constant. I don't know how much the revenues, fluctuate within the general fund here, but where we stand today at $175,000, this would take us down to $155,000 if we did the past 3 years in the current year, and then $155,000 is our going amount for the current year. And we've been able to, as you said, the last couple of years actually build the general fund balance a little bit. So that's my perspective. Again, Jeremy, it's not to say that you guys aren't doing a great job or anything like that. I'm just saying, to Abra's point exactly, is that if we had to go contract this outside, I don't think anybody would feel comfortable being able to sign up for $9,000 or $10,000. I think we'd have to find another solution. Knowing that this is an internal transfer to another fund within our current, under our purview, I feel more comfortable doing $5,000. But I think to your point exactly is if we were to contract externally, I would have several quotes to come up with $5,000 and try to find the cheapest one possible, which is not what I'm asking to do in this situation. But I just feel like this is something that the general fund can afford. it seems reasonable and justified for the service you guys are providing, but yet it doesn't just give $40 an hour, you know, over to the road fund. And I'm fine, let's discuss it. I mean, I have no problem discussing this. I'm open to other ideas. I'd originally thought, just for more perspective, you know, when you went away to work these numbers, I assumed it'd come back in the $2,500 range. Obviously, that's naivete, but to see 9,000, that was a little bit surprising to me. So, if we thought about the last 30 years, something like that, and I know it's indexed for inflation, obviously, so it's not real numbers, but if you talk about, you know, 10,000 a year for 30 years, that's $300,000 that the general fund would be down. We definitely wouldn't have a balance in that account if we've been doing this for the last 30 years, like everyone's agreed we haven't, so.
Right.
Well, and two, Mr. Holbrook, you're gonna have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that what we are required, right, I believe by ORC is to mow it, is it twice a year maybe? Or it's a lot less than that, is that correct, Mr. Holbrook?
I'm not sure about the cemeteries. The roads are required by law twice a year.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of then.
The problem with mowing the cemeteries is, you know, it's kind of like mowing your yard. If you only mowed your yard twice a year, it would be a mess, and you'd probably destroy your mower mowing it those 2 times. So,
Yeah.
That's not
and
unreasonable.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying to mow it twice a year, but I'm just saying we could, you know, instead of mowing it, I don't know if you drive by my house, but my husband thinks our yard should be a golf course, I think. So he's really into our grass and how often he mows it. So I have to know all about grass. But, you know, there are times throughout the summer where I wouldn't think would mow it maybe once a week, especially in the really dry times during the year. But I'm comfortable with 5,000. My question is just, the general fund take that every year for the next, I mean, we have taken a 25% pay cut at least since 3 years I've been on, and I guess the 4th year. In the future, though, if that had not happened, you know, for the next years, that would divvy up that difference too. So
How do you feel about a 2-year? So pay them for last year, this year, so it's not as direct of a hit. So you $10,000, and then going forward, we take care of the responsibilities as, well, somewhere in the $5,000 range.
I'm completely open to anything. I promise you. The one thing I would say is, if we're worried about setting precedent, I would be more comfortable trying to lower the going, but still, since we have the 27 sitting there, I would rather reimburse them for a few years, get some of that money transferred over, right? But if we're really concerned about being able to shoulder 5,000, I think 3,000, 2,500 seems fine too. I mean, obviously Jeremy's going to say that he may not agree, and that's fine. We need to have that discussion, but I think that's probably the best solution, if that's what we're really concerned about as long-term, is let's set the perpetuity number. And here's the thing is, Mr. Easton can correct this, but I assume every year we're going to have to pass this in an appropriation. Like, it's a discussion. It's not like what we say tonight we're locked into for the next 20 years.
Right.
So
It should be.
No, you'll do a resolution every year whenever you make a transfer between funds.
yeah, and so my assumption is if at any time we're getting, you know, tight on the general fund, there's going to be puts and calls across the board, and this can be one of them that comes up at that point. With the numbers that we have today, I think somewhere between 2,500 and 5,000 is reasonable. And again, with the 27,000 coming in, I'm okay allocating a large chunk of that for past that we haven't given the roads. But going forward, I totally understand the concern. So whatever you guys think on the going forward, I'm aligned to as well.
Well, and Mr. Stubbs, I think I kind of agree with his point about last year and this year because, and I don't know the year off the top of my head, I probably have it in the tablet, but we did, the purchase of the lawnmower did come out of the general fund, and I believe it was like 6,000. I'm sure Mr. Holbrook could tell us exactly what it was. And I think when they sold the old one, the lawnmower.
Right, it was 6,000, but then we sold the other one, which is purchased by the road department. So that was actually road department money. So actually the general fund only gave like 4,000 something for it.
4,000. Yes, that was my recollection. So was that 2 years ago, Mr. Holbrook?
Yes.
So 2 years ago, the general fund did purchase, or however you want to split it, $4,000 to the purchase of the lawnmower. So then that would do 2 years ago, and then if we gave the 10 grand or whatever money was allotted for last year and then this year.
If you guys got numbers, I'm fine with whatever you guys think is reasonable. What do you suggest?
I'm not opposed to $5,000. I think 8,500, I was a little surprised by that number as well. I think
I mean,
8,500 is a little high for the bill.
if the board wants me to go out and try to get some pricing on subcontracting it, that would, like I said, that would be the only way to know for certain that
Well, and
that you guys are getting a fair deal. And actually, you know, the way the ORC is written, to my understanding, is that anytime we put out there in the cemeteries is money that's not being spent on the roads. So in reality, my understanding is regardless if it costs the road department $5,000 or $100,000 to mow the cemeteries, that money should be coming out of the general fund. So with that being said, even giving the $5,000 a year might not be meeting the requirements of the law. I don't know.
So that's a question for the prosecutor's office, because I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
And that's where you could kind of maybe be more on track if you knew what it was going to cost subcontract. I mean, somebody could come back and subcontract and say, yeah, we'll do it all year long for $2,500. And that would be a better deal for you guys. And you would just go that route. And the road department wouldn't maintain the cemeteries.
So do you mind getting bids before
No.
our next meeting?
Yeah, good.
And then see where we're at from there, because we don't have to do this tonight.
Yeah, I agree.
No.
And to see where we're at going forward, just to give us some idea of cost-wise.
Sure.
You want those bids to be exactly what he does at present? Mowing weekly, trimming every other week?
I would like them however the people that are giving the bids would see fit to mow them.
So them maintaining them.
Just
for the
maintaining
year,
them
what is it?
however they would see
I mean, you
fit.
may not have to mow the thing for the month of July or
Yeah.
whatever, based on rain. So,
I guess, just as much as you get in a quote, it's not gonna hurt for you to do that, Jeremy. I think let us check and see what the ORC says with Nathaniel, because, I mean, that may dictate the whole thing, right?
Right.
If it says pay for the value, or if it says reimburse you for your time, because those are two different things, right?
Right.
So,
It was my
we can look into that.
it was my understanding that no money could be pulled from any of my funds for work that was not directly related to road functions, because that's what all those all my funds are restricted to. If you look at their language, the way the funds are set up, they all specifically say for the reconstruction or the maintenance or the purchase of equipment for the maintenance of roads and bridges. So that's kind of where I think the auditor's office, when they originally let me know about this, that's where they were getting their information, was the language of when the funds were passed.
Yeah, so Mr. Hubbock, I actually have it pulled up right now, the ORC, and I have no problem checking with him about that. It's ORC 517.11. That's what I found right away when I pulled it up, and it does say that the Board of Trustees shall provide the protection and preservation of cemeteries under its jurisdiction, and, you know, it goes on and so forth, but and there could be a whole nother ORC over this. I just quickly Googled it. Because I'm not seeing this anywhere in there, but I'm sure you have it somewhere.
I think his point, if I'm understanding right, Jeremy, is you're just saying that there should be no money coming out of your account or paying for something that's not related to a road service. So it's a different part of the ORC.
Okay.
Referencing, so,
Okay.
which makes sense. Let's just try to check with Mr. Peterson, and I'll copy you obviously on that email, and we'll see what he says going forward, and we'll figure it out. We can discuss it at the next meeting. I mean, I appreciate you putting this together. Obviously, it's been several years in the running, so I don't, as Mr. Stubbs mentioned, we don't have to solve this right here and now. So
Right.
we'll take it forward to the next meeting.
Okay.
All right, moving on. I'm going to add this next item on my report every time we meet in a monthly meeting, just so we don't lose track of this. And that is that the park levy decision needs to come sometime this year. The levy did end at the end of 2020. We will be collecting throughout 2021. We do need to make sure we don't miss the deadline in August for filing whatever we end up doing for the November meeting. And I believe you were going to, Mrs. Reed, you were going to talk with Mrs. Gilliland at the city and the Parks Board and try to get an answer. I don't know whether we have anything yet or not.
I have not, Mrs. Gilland included me on that email. I think I mentioned it at one of our meetings where I was included on an email there where she had emailed the Board of Elections just to verify 100% that there was nothing else on the ballot. And there has been no reply to my knowledge from the Board of Elections to that. But I did let the city know that if we're the only thing on the ballot, that we are not interested in pursuing that to pay the money for the election fees, so.
I'll just bring it up again next month. All right, the last thing I really have is something else we talked about at a prior meeting, and that is the fact that unused vacation time that is cashed out by our employees is not considered earnable salary for OPERS retirement, since the township does not have an annual conversion plan on file with OPERS. And last time we talked about this, you wanted to defer a decision until this meeting to allow Chief Anzik and Mr. Holbert to give you their thoughts on this issue. So with that in mind, if there's anything we want to talk about, and if you decide that you want to approve an annual conversion plan, you'll need to do that by resolution.
You'll have to remind me, my memory was just that, if Chief Anzik or, Jeremy felt strongly on this, and I don't recall exactly why we were wanting to ask them that.
Well, it impacts their budget, number one.
Okay, that's what it was.
If it's OPERS,
Yeah.
earnable salary,
Yeah.
then we pay either 18% or 14% out of their budgets. On the other hand, it also impacts all the employees, because if it's not earnable salary for OPERS, then it doesn't impact what their retirement will be.
Mhm.
So it goes both ways, and I think you wanted to just hear what the two of them as department heads on about that issue.
Yeah, but I just want to make sure, because we had a pretty good discussion on this. We were all okay with it. It was just the fact that they were the ones that was coming out of their budgets. We just want to make sure they were aligned with it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Chief Anzik and Mr. Holbrook, that's what we're asking is, are you familiar with this topic first, and then if you are, okay. And then the other thing is just, are you comfortable with, if we were to pass this and say that it's earnable salary, then obviously there would be more funds that would come out of your budgets to cover this, contribution. It's not substantial. I mean, we can talk numbers, but I don't think it's anything substantial.
I don't think it's substantial, so I'm fine with making it earnable salary.
I as well am fine with it.
So earnable salary, they're fine with it, both of them.
So if we then want to approve the conversion plan so that going forward, it will become earnable salary, and it's only good for a year, we'll do it by resolution, and it will be resolution 2021-10.
I'll introduce resolution 2021-10 to make, the conversion of vacation leave to cash for leave that is accrued, something that we are able to do and pay out.
I'll second.
Any discussion of resolution 2021-10? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Mr. Raymond?
Yes.
Mrs. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Stubbs?
Yes.
Resolution 2021-10 is adopted. And the final thing, I just want to remind those listening to the meeting, as well as the three of you, that we have one more special meeting this month, and that is on Wednesday of this week. It's at 6 o'clock, and it will be another meeting with the other jurisdictions about the potential JED with Valley View Schools. And with that, I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Easton. At this time, I guess we're gonna switch over to the department heads. Chief Anzick.
Okay, I have no report. However, late last week, I learned that we need to get a new server for the police department files and whatnot. The current server will not be supported by Microsoft. So when, and Jeremy can correct me if I'm wrong, but Joe Dietrich from CDO Technologies was out referencing the phone systems. Is that right, Jeremy?
Yeah, we were talking about the phone systems and the police server, which basically takes care of all the internal files and saving of the body cam and all that the police department has to keep records of.
And basically, price for a new server with 2 processors, 96 gigabyte of RAM, 48 terabytes of storage is about $18,565. He's going to give us a more detailed quote. Hopefully, he said that he might be able to get it as low as 15,000. However, we have not heard back from him any concrete numbers yet. I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention that that's something that we'll be discussing in the near future, probably as soon as February.
Okay, just a couple real quick questions. The reason we need it is because we're out of storage, or just because it's outdated? The one.
That it's out of date. They're no longer supporting it. Grade to one that they're going to be supporting, especially with the security, the updates that affect security.
Okay.
And that concludes my report.
We'll reserve, I guess, all questions for when you can gather some more data, I guess, Chief. I mean, we'll have to figure out when, like, how it's going to get split and who pays for what and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think it's worth getting into tonight. Okay. Jeremy, do you have anything for, I know we've met recently, but.
I didn't have anything on my agenda, and I received a quote from Ryan McClary with Pro On Call at 3:30 today, which was half an hour after I'd already left. I think he also forwarded that to you, Tyler. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Basically what this was, and I haven't had a chance to compare the combined quote for the SIP trunks and the server upgrade. I haven't compared it to what the 2 separate quotes were before, but it's my assumption that it's a better deal to get it all done at one time and together, and that's why he sent us a quote for everything. Lori Rohrback had stopped in last week, I think it was Friday, and I briefly had a conversation with her on what she had put in the budget for the police department, what she thought would serve the police department as far as phone system. And there was two quotes, one for just a basic server upgrade to the Mitel system, which is kind of like the lower end, not as many features as the second quote, which was the high end, which had basically you could do all this stuff through your phone, had an app, and you could call forward and all this stuff to cell phones, which both Lori and I decided, as good as that sounds, I'm not so sure we utilize it to the amount that it would make the extra money worthwhile for the high end system, which was, don't quote me on this, I'm not looking at the old quote, but it was like $4,800 for the high end server, and then like $2,500 for the mid range, or for the lower end server. So it was her opinion and mine as well that we should go with the lower end. We don't have a problem with our phones. They're just, the server is extraordinarily out of date. It's not getting updates anymore. and as Tyler and I talked before about going with SIP trunks, not sure I can still give you an intelligent description on what that is. It's just a different way of routing calls on the internet. Currently, our phone system is voice over IP, so it's going through Time Warner or Spectrum. And this is just a newer technology that most places are going with to basically compress the amount of information that they're pushing through Spectrum. And by doing that, it's saving everybody, and it couldn't save us included, some money. So basically our phone bill with the SIP trunk server would go from, I think we give $2.99 a month for our 6 lines currently, and Pro On Call's quote said that our monthly cost would be $80.89 for those same 6 lines. Now, that does not include the upfront cost from the bid that he just sent, that Ryan just sent out. It looks like it's going to be hardware installation and licensing, and 1 year of service is going to be $6,068.50. So if you do the math, you know, I don't know what the payback is on that.
30 months.
We'd be saving $2,600 a year basically by doing the SIP trunk changeover. That's going from $2.99 a month to $80.89 a month. So that would, over 12 months, that would save us roughly $2,600. So within under 3 years, you'd have the equipment paid for in the installation. So I don't know if we have to move on this tonight. Like I said, I just got this kind of dropped on me right at 3:30. So I've looked at it for approximately 20 minutes. So.
Yeah, so a couple things. I looked, last email I did have from him was the 7th, so I didn't get the one today for some reason, but that's fine. Just to give everyone else background, so when we worked on this equipment and had Time Warner come out, you know, and quote us some stuff, we had Pro On Call quote us. We ended up going with Pro On Call. We thought it was a simpler solution, and it was. But when they came out to install it, they had a discussion with Jeremy about our setup and how they thought they could save additional money. So that's how this thing got kicked off, was just a casual conversation with Jeremy when they were installing this, saying that, you know, SIP trunks could save us money, which it looks like it can. It just comes with an upfront call. So I think we need to somehow weigh this out. I mean, obviously we can't use the same server, I'm assuming, or some kind of large server to manage both the storage of the data and information that we have and the telephone systems that we have. Like, those are 2 different servers, 2 different systems, I'm assuming. I'm not.
Yeah, they do 2 totally different things, and I'm not so sure. I would almost guarantee the police department has some sort of regulations on tying that secure information up with the same computer that's running the phone system.
Fair enough. So that's a totally different one. But the one question, or one thing you did mention, is that we were looking already to replace the server that we have here. And so
Correct.
There could be savings if we sync up when we replace the phone server piece with the SIP trunk changeover or whatever, potentially. Is that right?
Right. Lori had put in the budget for 2021 for the replacement of that server, of the phone server. We got to specify phone server and police server. We're talking about phone server, but she had put that in her budget for the lower end one, which I don't want to call it low end. It's not junk. It's just doesn't have all the bells and whistles that like the one that Spectrum had kind of they tried to push in the beginning. But Ryan did tell me that one of the benefits of doing the SIP trunks and setting it up this way is that if for some reason the township building got wiped off the face of the planet, God forbid, they could have us set back up within 5 minutes. All incoming calls to all 6 of those lines could be transferred to anybody's cell phone, home phone, a makeshift center, you know, police department. If the police department got, you know, a tornado came through and wiped the place out, and the police department decided they were going to set up at Neff's Mowing or the Germantown Library or wherever, they could route all those calls to anywhere you wanted in a matter of like 5 or 10 minutes. And that's one of the benefits of doing all this stuff cloud-based as compared to having it all on site. All of our voice messaging and all of that is also going to be cloud storage and would be accessible even if everything at the township was gone. You know, if the server got hit by lightning and totally wiped out the phone system, all of our messages, all of our greetings and everything, all of our programming, as far as, you know, what calls get routed where, it's all in the cloud. So it's like a matter of just minutes and they could get itself set back up. So that was one of the benefits that he was telling us about. And I told him, you know, the main benefit I see is the saving of money. You know, that's kind of an additional benefit, but the main thing is the difference between $2.99 a month and $80.89 a month. Now, that's not including obviously the upfront cost of $6,068.50.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know how everybody feels. I need to see some more information on this. So we talked with Spectrum, and they offer basically all the same services that we're talking about here with the SIP trunk situation, with their unified communications, and all the reliability, the downtime, et cetera, et cetera. But I know it was basically a flat cost is what we ended up netting out with them, and it wasn't worth all the hassle of doing the work. This one, to your point, is a lot different, but I'm still a little confused as to how they can provide all those features for something that Spectrum was just going to give us a flat change, and it was still supposed to be upgraded services, et cetera, et cetera. In this case, we're getting promises of all the upgraded services, but then cutting down their monthly bill by $200. And it's one thing if it was all with Pro On Call, because it'd be interesting to see them sign up to take that $200 hit, you know, every month. But they know that we don't have those lines with them; we have them with Spectrum, and so it's just interesting. I think we need to chat through it and make sure that we fully understand that whole scenario there.
Well, if you remember our meeting with Spectrum, it was my understanding that all the equipment was owned by Spectrum. So with that being said, their monthly charge probably included the quote unquote rental of all the equipment that was at our facility. You know, that was kind of like an all-inclusive price. And this is the way I understood it. I could be completely off base, but you know, if your phone went kaput, it would be their problem and they would bring you a new phone. Now, if Pro On Call, you own the equipment. If it goes bad or you have a handset go bad, you're buying a new one. You know, you're responsible for that. Same with the Starfish. We own that now, and nobody's gonna come fix it for free. Whereas if Spectrum if we'd went that route, I think that was the reason their price was higher, was because they were maintaining all the equipment. We owned pretty much nothing other than a monthly bill. Now, like I said, I could be wrong, but that's the way I understood it. And that's where I think the difference between Pro On Call's price and Spectrum's price is Pro On Call is selling you the equipment up front, and then they're just billing you whatever the rate is for the 6 lines through the SIP trunk.
Yeah. I think that's the key difference, right? It's the $6,000 up front versus it's great after 30 months as long as nothing else breaks and we have to buy new again. Whereas with Spectrum, you would still have that $300 in perpetuity, and so
Right.
there's just a balance there. Do you have a strong opinion or thought?
You know, my opinion is I think our current phone system is at least 10 years old. And we've hardly had, we've had very little problem out of it. I mean, it's been pretty bulletproof, knock on wood. So, you know, do I see us, and as soon as I say this, I'm probably going to jinx myself, you know, are we going to spend $6,000 in equipment to save money and all of it blow up in a year and a half or 2 years? So I hope not. You know, I mean, the equipment that we've had so far has like I said, served us well. We've had a couple handsets go out, but they're like $80 to $100 a piece. Other than that, you know, it comes down to, it comes down to, do you want to pay a big monthly fee and have somebody else worry about the maintenance, or pay it up front and you have to worry about it whenever it does decide to break or malfunction?
Yeah, all those lines today are through Chartered or Spectrum, right? Those 6 lines for $300. This
Yes.
would not be through them. So I guess that's the thing, is we would have to, I would like to see, you know, what that, you know, whoever's backing this up, whether it's, Pro On Call or whoever, just what their claim is to the reliability, and get some other people to verify that piece of it, because it's not through anybody that we have today. The other thing is, I think, you know, you've got this data in the emails. I'll go through now that we've checked, is when we talked before, you know, I said I would have to lean on you to understand a little bit better. Now that we've had the chat, let me go back and look at the numbers a little bit more, and it may make sense just to have one call with them and just see what their claim is, you know, on how reliable it's going to be and all that kind of stuff, and then we can come back in the next meeting and give a recommendation and see what the other trustees say. I'm okay with putting the money out if we're going to long-term be in a better place, but I also would really like to know, you know, what, we kind of were all in the same boat, and there were several of us in that meeting, right, that it wasn't worth the disruption before with the Spectrum thing. This might not be as disruptive, but I also know that there's some benefit to continuity that we have.
Right. Well, and you know, the other thing about it is if you, give me 1 second here. If we look back at the price for just the SIP trunks, which I'm not sure I can get that super fast, but no. I didn't think, you know, it's kind of hard to compare apples to apples and apples when we were planning on doing the phone upgrade anyways. And the phone upgrade by itself is like $3,600, say, because I think it was 18 and 25. Actually, it's more closer to $4,300 just for the server upgrade. So in reality, we're talking $2,000 or less than $2,000 to do the SIP trunks. So that's where we kind of need to separate, you know, the SIP trunk conversation with the upgrade of the server, because we were planning on doing the server anyways. So,
yeah, no, that's clear. I mean, I think that's my problem, is I didn't have this stuff lined out. So that's fine. I guess the last piece then, you're saying it's $2,000 for SIP trunks, which we could save $200 a month. So it's a 10-month payout. We could pay that out in a year, that upfront investment. Does anybody, I don't even know what a SIP trunk is. I've never even had this discussion before. Like that's the only piece, is I don't feel like I have a good understanding of what the reliability is and how it would operate. I mean, are we confident? You know, one of the big questions that Lori had was how it interacted, you know, us transferring calls and all that. I'm assuming since they know our setup, we wouldn't have, it'd be pretty seamless from that perspective.
Nothing would change as far as our phones or programming. So everything would operate internally exactly the same. You would see no difference from the handset. Like I said, everything would be on the hidden side, that the operations side of where those phones are being routed. Now, I do think that you need to contact Ryan and talk to him about, you know, the reliability of the cloud and the storage and all that. But as far as the reliability, all this stuff is still going through Spectrum. So from the Spectrum side of the reliability, it's going to be the same today as it will be when we migrate, if we migrate to the SIP trunks. The carrier will be the same. So now obviously somebody's going to be doing the switching and the cloud services for the phone system. That's not going to be Spectrum. So I guess that's kind of the question you might want to ask Ryan McClure about, you know, how bulletproof is this? You know, how reliable is the cloud services?
Okay.
Can we invite Ryan to a meeting?
Yeah, I mean, they've always offered, right, Jeremy? They're usually
Yeah.
pretty offering to join a meeting if we need them to.
Yeah, and I'm sure they could do a virtual meeting. They could probably describe the SIP trunks way better than I can.
Yeah, I think, let's take it offline and follow up with them and try to set up to maybe them come to the next trustee meeting unless it's like really cut and dry. 'Cause
Okay.
I'm really confused now that you mentioned that, it'd still be Charter or Spectrum that would be, doing some kind of hosting, because it's basically Pro On Call now is signing up for us to switch over to SIP trunks, and Charter Spectrum would be able to provide that service to us, going from $2.99 out of their pocket to only $80, into their pocket each month. So I'm just, it's kind of confusing to me how it all works, and the Charter would sign up for that. But hopefully, I mean, obviously they're the experts. I'm not. You know way more about it than I do at this point. So let me talk to Ryan, try to get some background, and see if they'll join the next meeting if you're okay with that.
I'm fine with that. And that's
Thank you.
all I have.
Thanks, Mr. Holbrook. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, Neely.
Hello. So under the old news, but it's kind of new news, the new website is up and running. So there is no change in the address. If you go to german-township.org, you will see the new webpage. Under new news, I've only wrote 2 permits over the last month. One is a new pole barn on Windancer and a new home on Browns Run. I have attached for all of you the Board of Zoning Appeals and the Zoning Commission attendance for 2020. And the next Board of Zoning Appeals meeting is the organizational meeting, which is tomorrow night. And the next Zoning Commission meeting, which is also their organizational meeting, is on the 19th. And that is all I have.
The website looks nice. Thank you for the time and effort you put into it.
Absolutely. It was fun.
It'll continue to be fun.
Oh, I'm sure, yes.
Yeah, I'd say thanks as well. And I mean, just the folks on the call tonight, obviously we're not taking total requests and she's gonna do everything, but if there's other things that we wanna see on the website or something where, you got 5 minutes at the beginning of these meetings to voice your opinion on things we could add to it to make it more user-friendly for you guys as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Is there anything to talk on the email piece, or we wanna hold that?
I was just saving it for you. We can
Okay.
talk on that now if you want.
Okay, well, at this point, it's switching over to the trustee reports.
Yeah.
Mr. Heaton covered the JED meeting. I just want to mention it for Wednesday. The only other thing I was potentially going to talk tonight, and I'm not sure if you're fully there, is just she has got the website up and running, so we were talking about doing Gmail G Suite for the email, or for the email for the township. Aver's got some numbers on that stuff, so do you want to run through those really quick?
Yeah, so this is going to be for a total of 9 accounts. This would be 3 trustee accounts, a fiscal officer, 1 road, 2 police, 1 trash, and 1 zoning. So that's 9. So it would be $60 a month, $720 per year. This would also replace the WebEx because it has all of the same features that WebEx does. We can do everything just the same. WebEx is currently at $162 plus tax a year. So really, let's see, some quick math here. 720 minus 160.
Yeah, 560, so, yeah.
558.
The 720, do you know if it has to have tax on it and everything, or is that like an all-in email from Gmail?
I do not know.
Okay.
Should we be tax exempt? So
Yeah,
why should
we
we tax
should be,
exempt from?
right.
So,
So then with the Gmail, we can all have at german-township.org email addresses. And for the trustees, I would recommend your first dot last name, just to keep it across the board the same. You can have up to 30 email aliases per person. So like, for example, for me, I would have the general zoning at german-township.org, and then for internal correspondence or whatever, I can have a haley.sewell@german-township.org. It'll be 2 different mailboxes if I want it to go to 2 different mailboxes, but I can have up to 30 if I wanted. Let's see, we can sync all of our old accounts. So if, for example, my main email right now is gtwpzoning@woh.rr.com. If anybody were to send an email to that in 6 months from now, it would forward it straight to the new email address. So they would not see any change in service or anything like that. Let's see.
That's 30 gigs per
Yep.
person.
30 gigs per person, for the storage. Let's see, it comes with built-in security. Let's see, includes Google Calendar, which if you go to the website right now, I have not, attached a calendar. So there's a couple of different ways. I wanted to put a calendar on the website just so people can look forward to see what is coming up for this next month. And the easiest way to do that is to attach it to a calendar. And I don't have a calendar set up right now, or you will have to list it all. Like you'll have to go in and list every single line item. So with this, it'll include Google Calendar for every single user. We can have a Google Calendar just in-house. We can have a Google Calendar that the public sees. Any mix that you think of, we can have. Again, it has Google Meet. It'll have Google Pages. So if we need to share documents for each other, we don't necessarily have to send it. Aber, I know you work with Google a lot. Jake, do you work with Google a lot at school now? Yeah. So you can just do the page on your Google account, and then whoever has access to that specific account can just go in and see it. And as far as I'm aware, like if we were sitting right here right now and we all had it pulled up and I changed a document, if you hit refresh, it's there. So it's pretty instant. So we have the shared pages, shared drives, shared docs, shared calendars. It works on computer, phone, and tablet, 24/7 tech support at no extra cost. Let's see, there was a few questions, Tyler, that you and I discussed. Can others call in like they do tonight, like when we see the call-in user? Yes. It will give us the same information that I get with WebEx when I set up the meeting. Can we sync old accounts? Yes. Can we use our own domain? Yes. Is there an efficient way to print the emails? Because I know with records requests, Gmail is kind of wonky where you have to open it up and print every single one individually. Yes, there's a better way to do that. The only question that I did not get answered, which I'm assuming the answer is going to be yes, is if we can have X amount of business accounts and then one standard account. Because the standard account does come with more features, including like how many people can be on a call, stuff like that. I would assume it would be yes. I don't know why it would be no.
I honestly believe it would be yes too. I think it's worth confirming, but I guess that's the question I have though is, what does this estimate based off? It's assuming that we could do that
Yes.
way? Okay, so that's the only thing, if we were to approve something tonight, if for some reason they came back and said, no, if you have one business, you have to do all business, where that would change is that we wouldn't be able to take out WebEx, because I think what we would actually choose is that we would go with all the base model ones, and then we'd have to keep the WebEx subscription. So
Correct.
We would still be at call it $880 a year versus today we're only at $160 a year. So it's that extra $700.
Right.
But what I would say is, we were already approving the $400 for .gov. I know none of us want to pay money, but again, this is back to getting 9 people, a professional at germantownship.org, consistent email. It decouples all the other issues we have on records requests, et cetera. I think, particularly if we can do the minus WebEx and put this in 560, to me is not significant enough to say no. Even under 1,000, I think it's probably the right investment to move forward with this. We've all talked to other townships and stuff, and they're all doing it at this point. And so I think Farmersville might have gotten lucky and got in when it was free at that point in time. But you can't cry over spilled milk. We are where we are. So.
Right, and then another thing, if we were to do the 2 police accounts, I was basing that off of one for Shauna and one for Chief. I do believe that since you can have up to 30 aliases, they could all have their own email if they wanted, and it would be under one account, just different emails.
That would be worth confirming, because I think Chief
Yeah.
had made the point that, it'd be nice if they all different ones, but right now, I think
Definitely.
Lori or somebody had the point of it. They need to all be available for her to get to or something, so that's the way that would work. That'd be nice for them to confirm.
Did you say that the trash clerk also has one now?
Yes, so 3 trustee, 1 fiscal, 1 road, 2 police, Shauna and Chief, trash, 1 trash, and 1 zoning.
So if I'm thinking this correctly, Shauna would have 2, 1 for trash and 1 for police.
Yes. And then with the aliases, she would have 1 specifically, Shauna.Klaus@gmail, or at German-Township.
Do we have to worry about Google censoring us, since they seem to be censoring everybody else right now? Seriously.
I don't know.
It's ridiculous. But
Yeah.
That's something we have to, are they gonna say we did something wrong and ban us at some point?
I don't know.
Now, does the meeting feature have the recordings also?
Yes,
Okay, that's important.
yes.
And what happens to all of our old emails?
So-
We need to retain those, again, for public records requests.
Correct. So all of that right now is saved on our servers, and, so the WOH.RR.com is saved on Spectrum's server also. All of those emails can be forwarded to the new email addresses. if we
Going
wanted
forward.
to.
But the historical ones also will still have access to.
Yes.
Okay, so I have one more question about this.
Mhm.
If you can have 30 aliases go to the same, could Shauna have one? Can you tell who the original recipient was? Since,
I don't know.
so if we had one for Shauna at trash, Wayne, or whatever, and then another one for Shauna at police,
Right.
could that really just be one email address?
So
We could one to
instead
Chief
of,
and one to,
right, so
or
instead of
should we
making
make-
2 separate accounts for her, make 1 account and have, like, her account be Shauna.Klaus@German-Township, and then another one, police at German-Township, and then another one, trash at German-Township.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking,
Shauna.
that way she's not, if you can have more than one alias, go to the same one.
So the reason that I did 1 for police for her and 1 for trash for her is because it is 2 separate departments.
And you never
So,
know.
and- exactly, and if she couldn't do one or the other, heaven forbid, then it would still be separate.
Okay.
It wouldn't be the same. So, and then I would assume that the trash would pay for that account,
Okay.
the police budget would pay for one,
Okay. No, that makes sense.
So that's when you break it down that way,
Yeah,
your 720 a year split.
Right.
yeah, I mean,
So let's get the rest of the questions answered, I think, that were asked tonight, and then
Sure.
next meeting, hopefully go ahead and
yeah.
move forward with this.
Cool.
So this is German-Township.org?
Yep, the
Okay.
same as our, website. So everything will be across the board. So I did go ahead, I'll cancel it, but I did do a 7-day trial yesterday, just to see what it looks like, and it's pretty cool.
Okay. Well, I mean, I use
So-
Gmail, so I'm very comfortable with it, but yeah, let's get the questions answered.
Yeah.
So that's all I have for my report
Okay.
tonight, Mrs. Reed.
I just, wanted to let everyone know that there is a senior center meeting. It is the 14th, January 14th at 4:30. We haven't had one in a while, so that's what's coming up. And we were gonna have a fire oversight meeting, but there was nothing, that needed to be discussed, and so that got canceled. So that was really my only 2 things. That's all I have.
Close?
So I'll be quick. Cemetery, we had to take down a large tree. It actually just happened today. They had it done by about 4 o'clock today. A really big tree, actually. They had to bring a crane in and stretch it across. They were able to get it down safely, no issues, no damage. There were corner markers that had grown into the tree, so they can't grind the stump. We need the spot where the tree is at some point, and we're hoping we can't grind it, is what I'm getting at. We can't grind it because there's corner markers, stone, concrete, whatever in there. So we'll see what happens with that. So, information for Haley, we're potentially looking at putting a lean-to on the east side of the building down there, which isn't the township, so
Yep.
I'm not sure what we'll need to go through for that, but if you could look into that,
I'm sure just a building
I
permit,
figured it was something simple,
yeah,
so.
and that's on the website.
Okay,
Whoever wants to print it off, there's a PDF on the website.
okay, so we're looking at we're just beginning phases of it, just
Sure.
looking into, having more storage and getting rid of the old shed that's down there. If we get rid of that, put a lean-to on the other side, we're gonna gain several parking spots, and parking's been an issue as of late. Last thing I have is Bob Rohrback, who used to be the fiscal officer here, is part of the GARS, which is the Germantown Amateur Radio something. Society. And they have asked if they could use our meeting room. They have to have elections in January in person per their bylaws. So I told them I'd bring it up tonight. I don't have an issue with it. They're gonna follow all state guidelines. They use our trash billing room. That's their equipment in there. I don't know if you've been in to see it yet, but they have, radio equipment set up in there. So in case of emergency,
Okay.
they use it for their meetings, and it's here in case that we actually have to use it at some point down the road, so.
Coronavirus receptions, they've used this room?
Yeah, they've used this room for all their meetings.
That's what I thought.
But this one specifically has to be in person. They can't do it over Zoom because they have to have elections with physical ballots, and they have to hand them in, so. It's my recommendation that we allow them to use the meeting room. I believe they already have a key. It just needs, Mr. Rohrback does, so. If the board's in favor, I'll let him know, and they can hold their January meeting here.
Yeah. Obviously, they're following all protocols. I'm fine with it.
Absolutely. All right, no motion or anything.
I don't think one's needed.
So I will let Mr. Rohrback know, and that concludes my report for tonight.
Does anybody need to be here to let them in or set up?
No, they have their own.
Cool.
Is there any other new business tonight?
I have one quick statement. Jake, as far as the lean-to down at the cemetery.
Yes, sir.
You might want to look back at when they built that building, because I'm not sure that they actually paid a zoning permit, because that would be like government money, giving government money. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm not sure how they went about that, but that's just something to kind of keep in mind. I think they still need a permit, but I didn't remember there being a fee involved. I think they waived the fee somehow, but you might want to go back and look at the language that they used and if they did.
Okay, so that would have been 99, 2000-ish, I believe Mark Steinecker said, so we'll see if we can look into
Yeah,
that.
if you can find an approximate date, I'll go look in the
Okay.
files.
Perfect.
See what it was.
Yep, thank you, Jeremy.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other new business?
New business. This is Lynn Cleveland. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Lynn Cleveland, 11858 Oxford Road. Last meeting I had a terrible feedback, but I just wanted to thank Mr. Garone. I think he's on the meeting tonight, for taking the Chapter 143 Volunteer Peace Officer Dependents Fund. He's the chairman of it now. I have gotten him all the information I think he needs. That is a position that nobody really wants to have, and I thank him for taking it. Those who think it will bring you fame and fortune, you're terribly wrong. That is a position that is only there in case we lose a peace officer, and I wish him the best of luck. The next thing I have to talk about, our CERT team with German Township. I don't know if any of y'all know about it, but we have been deployed since March. We have been on every every COVID testing site, every COVID vaccination site that Montgomery County has had. We have been at, since December, our team has been at the convention center in downtown Dayton, directing traffic and doing the best we can with what we have. Right now, we have a definite need. When we take our COVID classes, we're giving a green vest with silver stripes on it. I don't know how much y'all know about what green looks like in the dark, but it looks like dark. So we're trying to get class 3 high vis jackets, rain gear, and all. We're directing traffic in the dark in downtown Dayton. Luckily, we have street lights, and but it's still dark out there. So I have sent a request into Chief Adzik as well as Chief of Police for German Township and Chief of Fire for German Township, trying to get some help for our CERT teams. So I would just ask the township trustees to give us a little love. You know, I know we're a little late in the Corona money, but we didn't know about it until December. So right now we need supplies, we need PPE, we need batteries, we need flashlights, we need rain gear, we need cold weather gear. So thank y'all, everybody, and that's just, I know Lori hasn't been here for a while, so it's a little hard for her to speak to it, but we have a new a new head of the CERT community. And I've been appointed the CERT team leader just because I stood in the rain for so many days. So if there's any way we can get some help from the township trustees, we would surely appreciate it. That's all I have.
Mr. Cleveland, how many vests and things, how many members are there of the CERT that you would need, just out of curiosity?
Right now, I am looking at getting 10 Type 3. Let me qualify this for you. Our CERT vests we were given when we take our CERT classes are Type 1. We were given a green vest. Now, that is because CERT teams have a green, or dictated as green in color. Police are blue, fire is red, you know, in that way, in a big plethora of badness, we can be dictated, we can see who's apart from each other. But when you're doing traffic control in the middle of the city at night, a green vest is terrible. So we're trying to get the orange and yellow vest, Type 3, and Type 3 refers to how much silver reflective you have on your vest. And I want 10 of those. I want 6 bomber type jackets, which are rainproof, and 6 pairs of pants that are rainproof. It comes up to about $800. Right now, some of us have this equipment because of other contracts we've been working under. I currently have gear that, because of my Coast Guard contracts and other contracts I've been working under, but the people we have coming in with us don't have that same luxury.
Can you send us the documentation on what you need and what prices you have?
I sent it to Chief Adzik under his so-called email address. It is, I think it was it's not directly to Chief, but it's under the Germantown Police Department. But yes,
Okay.
I'll send that in. All right.
Okay. Well, we'll get with him and
I mean, these are German Township residents, right? Or Germantown residents, one of the two, that are out there volunteering their time that need these things. Is that correct, Mr. Cleveland?
This is the German Township CERT Department. Yes, ma'am.
Those people, that's right. I just wanted to make sure that they were going straight to our residents. I mean, I think that the COVID money definitely, all these things you mentioned definitely qualify for the COVID money in my mind. It's going right towards the COVID stuff.
Now,
vaccine
now at
and
the
all- and
same
all that
time,
stuff.
ma'am, we were also, trying to change from Germantown cert, Moraine cert, and Brookville cert to an area-wide cert because we have so few people showing up that we're wanting to go to county-wide. But what I am proposing will go to Germantown ship cert, and it will be our property. We're not going to issue this to people, and they just keep it. It will be what we issue them on site at the day of their service, and we will get it back from them. So yes, it will
Now
be
you answered my
property of
question.
Germantown ship cert.
Okay.
Okay, we'll get that email and get with Chief Anzick, and we'll see what the right answer is there. Appreciate you bringing it up at the
I
meeting, though.
appreciate it. I do appreciate it. We have, every 3 days, we're out at the convention center directing traffic for the COVID vaccine that's going on right now with all the first responders and all the medical people. And when we get to the general public, it is going to be chaos. But Germantown cert
streamline-
has been one of the few certs that have showed up.
So to streamline this, have you advertised for a special meeting on Wednesday?
Yes.
Is it possible to redo that and add discussion on this? Give us time to get with Chief Anzick and potentially do this on Wednesday instead of waiting till February?
Yes.
Does it cause a lot of headaches for you?
No, but it pushes us up closer to the 24-hour requirement. But we can get that out tomorrow before 24 hours.
I would just assume if we could get it done this week instead of waiting until the second week of February, I think would be ideal, if possible.
I agree, and if it's such a hassle, I mean, we have to add like a 10-minute connect another day this week.
Yeah, that's
To do
fine, too.
virtually, we could do that if needed.
Let's just add it to Wednesday's meeting
Okay.
rather than setting up.
If you're good with that.
I'll notify the newspaper tomorrow during the day. If we get pushback from people, we get
I don't think
pushback.
about this.
It certainly, it will still be a legal meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
And the main purpose of the meeting's already been advertised, right? That the JED's already been,
Oh, yeah,
The main-
that was done a week or more ago,
okay.
2 weeks
Yeah.
maybe.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cleveland, for bringing that up, because I had no idea, so I appreciate it.
Thank
Sure,
you all.
you'll do
I will send you more information tomorrow morning or later tonight. And I thank you all for putting it in the meeting this week. I appreciate it. I know the CERT team will appreciate it. We have a desperate need.
Okay, clear. Any other new business? Okay, with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 8, I have 8:18.